The boy woke up to find that he had his period. He touched it carefully and found that it was his sister's. He then dragged his sister into the bathroom. Then he washed his underwear with his own hands. Then he went to the supermarket and stole sanitary napkins. Then he told his sister not to let anyone know, especially mom, dad and the landlord, because once they find out, they'll sell her to the landlord. The landlord had been thinking about her for a long time. Every time he would bring some food to get her to talk. So Zayn worked hard to protect her. He worked so hard to save money. When he had enough money, he would take his sister away. Zayn was the oldest in the family. He had to work to support. With 6 younger siblings at home, he thought he could always protect his sister. But then Zayn came home one day. He found some old hens in the house. Zayn went to look at them. He found his young sister in heavy makeup. He asked his mother why she had sold her, but his mother told Zayn not to embarrass him. Seeing that he couldn't persuade his mother, a bold idea came to Zayn's mind. The next morning Zayn woke up his sister, and then he took the money he had saved, and went to the supermarket and stole some food. Stopped the bus driver on the side of the road, asking the driver to wait for him here for a while. The driver agreed to do so. When Zayn got home, he found that his mother was sending his sister away. Zayn tried desperately to stop her, but he was pushed to the ground by his mother. Then his dad went upstairs and carried his sister downstairs by force and tied her to the car. Zayn was desperate. He ran to catch up with the motorbike, but in the end, that didn't change the fact, so he didn't even look back. He got on the bus alone. He wanted to get away from here, away from his broken family. On the way, Zayn ran out of the food he had stolen, and he had very little money left. He came to the bakery to apply for a job, but he was rejected because he was too young and had no identity. At night he sees a black man, Kaya, on the road. He asked Kaya if he could give him something to eat. When he saw how young he was, he said yes. It turned out that Kaya was a bitter person too. She had been smuggled in from another country. She was unmarried and pregnant. Her boyfriend had abandoned her. Kaya was living in hell, and he took Zayn in. He asked Zayn to stay home and help him with the kids. He went out to earn money. In the evening, Kaya brings home a cake. Zayn was a bit overwhelmed because it was the first time in his life, the first time he'd ever had a cake, and it was the first time that he felt at home. But the next day, the boss fired Kaya because his fake visa had expired, so he found a local snake. He tried to get another fake visa, but the snake offered him a price. He wanted $2,000 to get it, but that's a lot of money for Kaya. That's a lot of money. So the landlord got the idea of Kaya's child. He asked Kaya to give him the child in exchange for the money. Kaya didn't agree. He said no to him. In a place he didn't know, Kaya went into crime. He planned to trade his body for money. Here, Kaya's child. He cried without seeing his mother. So Zayn took the baby and went to find Kaya. He found out that Kaya had been fired from his job. Then Zayn stole a skateboard and a pot. He took the child to look for his mother. Immigration arrested Kaya here. He was crying with despair. What to do with his own child? He is only 12 years old, but he is looking after a 2-year-old child. To find food for the child, Zayn went to the pharmacy, tricked the doctor into prescribing a little painkiller. When he got home, he crushed it into powder. Then he mixed it with water, and so Zayn's mystery drink was made. In the evening, he took the children out to sell it. Zayn's drink was a big hit. It didn't make a lot of money, but it was good enough to fill the stomach. The next day Zayn came back from buying painkillers, only to find the locks had been changed by the landlord, and the contents had been thrown out. Zayn banged the lock hard, because all the money he'd made over the days was in there. Eventually the landlord kicked him out. Zayn took the kids and went on the streets. He didn't know what to do. It was hard to feed himself now, and now he had a child. Zayn had no choice. He sold the child to a snake. As he left, Zayn looked back from time to time, and the child kept watching him. Zayn didn't know if it was the right thing to do, but at least the child would not die of hunger. Then he went to the barber shop to get his hair cut. He was going to take the money and go to another country. The next day Zayn came home secretly. He was going to steal his birth certificate, but after searching for it, he couldn't find it. His father found him looking for his papers, so he told him in anger, "We are parasites. We don't have any identity. All we had was a deportation order and a hospital bill." Hearing the hospital bill, Zayn sensed that something was wrong. He asked his mother who had gone to the hospital, but there was no answer. He also guessed that his sister had died because she was pregnant and bleeding to death. She was taken to the hospital without an ID. She ended up dying in front of the hospital. Zayn was devastated. He took a knife out of a drawer. He rushed to the landlord's house. He wanted the landlord to go down and be buried with him. Zayn was eventually arrested for malicious wounding. His mother came to visit Zayn and brought his favorite sweets, but Zayn didn't like it. It turned out that his mother was pregnant again. Zayn told his mother, "I hope your unborn child won't meet the same fate as mine." After saying this, Zayn turned and walked away and threw the candy in the trash. That night Zayn picked up the phone and called the media. He wanted to sue his parents. "Why did they give birth to me?" In court, his parents justified what they had done. They said they had grown up like that. "We lived like slaves. Your life is a paradise. We are in hell. You have no right to judge us." Zayn retorted, "Does living in hell so that you can use your children as bargaining chips? Do you have to let your children to bear the burden of your mistakes?" Other people's children are treasured by their parents. Even if the family is poor, they won't use their children as a bargaining chip. You are selfish. Finally, at Zane's request, Zane's parents lost their parental rights. Zane was also acquitted. The snake was arrested. The children were recovered. Kaya was repatriated. Zane was finally given an identity. He smiles happily when his photo is taken. And that was the end of the film. While we were still enjoying the film, we didn't know that the main character, Zane, is talking about his own experience, and he's not a professional actor, but a child the director found in the slums. What he portrays is his own experience. Eventually Zane is sponsored by the United Nations. The family moved to Norway.